No dirt on my lily white hands. This is Common Filth Radio, best in the world. Episode 109. Thank you very much for listening. Common Filth Extra, episode 37, available now on commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com. But wait, this week and this week only, if you buy a sticker, you get a free download of Common Filth Extra, episode 37. So if you have not purchased a sticker or 2 or 3 or 10 yet, I have White Girls Fuck Dogs stickers, I got Ignore Sodomite Orders stickers, and if you buy one of them, if you buy just one, you don't have to buy multiple, you get a free download of Common Filth Extra episode 37, which is the newest episode of Common Filth Extra, and it's a good one. I talk about MySpace Tom, and I do a little bit of compare and contrast him with Mark Zuckerberg, who you know how I feel about him. We also say farewell to Poland. Find out why. Again, you can hear all of that on Common Filth Extra, episode 37, which is free with the purchase of a sticker on commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com/merch. But if you don't want the sticker, you just want the show, it's $1 or more. You can pay more if you want, but you don't have to. So, moving on. I was watching an old music video by a guy named Rick Springfield. You might know Jesse's Girl. He did that song. But he did a music video for something called Human Touch, a song he did called Human Touch. And it's, the video's kind of cool. It's a futuristic dystopia kind of setting. And he wakes up, he emerges from his cyber coffin, for lack of a better term. And he asks his computer, what year is it? And it says 2016 AD. And this song was released back in 1983. And this was 1983's vision of what 2016 would be like. And as we all know, that is the current year. As we speak, as I record, that is the current year, 2016. But it's fun to look at what past generations, even if they weren't that long ago, what they thought the future would be like. And, you know, even people in the 80s, they didn't think that 2016 would look very good. But the difference is they thought it would be a physical dystopia. Whereas it looks pretty much the same. I mean, there might be some new bells and whistles with regard to the architecture that weren't present back in 1983. But the point is, like, it's still, buildings are still standing. All right, nothing's crumbling. We haven't been hit with a Russian nuke. It didn't happen. So there aren't as many ruins as we thought there would be to explore, even though urban exploration is now a thing. And yeah, I like urban exploration. I think it's kind of cool. But the dystopia isn't a physical one. We're not living in an environment where all the buildings are crumbled, the cities are decayed, windows are boarded up. We don't live in a place like that. Some parts of the country may look like that, but more often than not, no, everything is business as usual. No. What we're dealing with in 2016 and beyond is not a physical dystopia, but a personal one. A spiritual one. The lives of most people are plagued by fuck-ups. Huge screw-ups. A few weeks ago on Common Filth Extra, I was looking through GoFundMe, recording what I found on GoFundMe. And what I did a search for was trans. Trans on GoFundMe, and you have all of these kids, young adults asking for money. Thousands of dollars in a lot of cases. They're all asking for money for their top surgery, which for girls, you know, there are all these girls who think that they're boys for who knows what reason. They want money so that they could go to a doctor. They give the doctor the big pile of money, and the doctor's like, okay, I have a big pile of money now. Let me chop off your tits and sew them up and sew up the wounds. That's what top surgery is. In other words, a mastectomy, which is something typically only breast cancer patients get. But in 21st century parody world, 19-year-old girls who lost their virginities too early, you know, they lost it before they were ready, and they lost it without a commitment of any sort, they freak out. They hate the body they dwell in because they feel dirty and used. Guarantee you that's where a lot of these female to male trans people come from. And this group of individuals, that's just one example of people who exemplify the personal and spiritual dystopia we find ourselves in in the present year 2016. The opposite example, the counterexample to the girl who thinks she is a boy, and there are a disturbing number of people out there who are very deeply confused, deeply confused about who they are and what they are and what they are through objective measure. Don't underestimate it. Don't underestimate the amount of crazy people that exist out there. But the counterexample is the guy who doesn't know how to talk to women, who either grew up in a single mother household or he grew up in a household where mom and dad never interacted, so he could never observe that interaction between male and female and learn how to do it himself. He never learned that, through one way or another, or he was just too afraid to do it. But you have these guys who are like, oh, I'll attract a girl by getting real swole. And then he ends up fetishizing the male aesthetic, which, as we understand, has happened with those who frequent gyms throughout history, as we found out last week. Thanks, Greeks. Thanks, Romans. We was Greeks. We was Romans. And so on. But again, don't underestimate the amount of crazy people out there who don't know how to interact with the opposite sex, who don't know how to live life, who don't know what it is to be human. And it wouldn't be a problem if these people stayed in their bumfuck nowhere towns, doing nothing, making wrecks of their own lives and nobody else's, but no. They expand their depravity. They expand it. They promote it on the internet where other lonely, confused people get bad ideas. They're looking for something. They're looking for something to do with themselves. And, we like to say, oh, all people have a right to self-determination. What if they're self-determined to fuck up? Have we ever considered that? Do you want to be wrong or do you want to be right? Because there is right and there is wrong. And I don't know why you would willingly choose wrong. And chopping off your dick, that is wrong. Wanting to be a dickless cross-dresser, that is wrong. I don't care what good opinions they have. That's not somebody I want around. That's not somebody who I want society to accept. That's somebody who's very dangerous to society's well-being. Again, we're talking about what we thought the future would be 30, 40 years ago and what it is now. We still have running water. We still have electricity that I am using to record this show for you. We still have all of that. But what we don't have is sanity. What we don't have are standards. What we don't have is a correct sense of what is right and what is wrong. Hence the personal dystopia we live in now. Most stories I read on here are examples of a personal spiritual dystopia. Levels of depravity and decadence only possible in this day and age. I'm mentioning dystopia, that's on my mind because something occurred to me. That a lot of people, they just want a nice leisurely life. I notice that my fellow whiteys, all they want is that they have the most pathetic middle-class dreams. They just want to be a soft piece of veal doing nothing, having no conflict, never having to make a stand, never having to put right and wrong into action, not even having a sense of right and wrong. No, we want to be spineless and amoral. That's the middle-class dream. And this is where a lot of these crazy girls come from who think that they're boys. And a lot of, and the other way around as well. They come from sterile suburban environments. Our vision of what perfection is, where we have no crime, no honest violence that we have to defend ourselves against, that we have to prevent, that we have to protect ourselves from. Look at a place like Japan. Probably the most sterile society on the planet when it comes to crime. Yet between it's either 1 in 200 or 1 in 250 Japanese women have been in adult videos. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in one of these videos, you are an abuse victim. Sane, well-adjusted people who haven't suffered some heinous abuse They don't have the impulse to suck and fuck on camera for money. They don't have the impulse to be nude even on camera. So you have about as close to a physical utopia as you can get, and look how the people behave. They behave in the worst ways possible. They behave in abominable ways. And this is our goal here. To create what our vision is for utopia when humans are not meant to exist in utopia. We aren't. If we were, we would have found it by now. We would have achieved it by now. Yet societies fail time and time again, and ours is a failing society. Because nobody knows how to act. Nobody knows what the purpose is for anything. Not marriage, not male, not female. Nothing. We need honest, real problems to solve, or we self-destruct. We create the personal, spiritual dystopia we see today. With that being said, in wherever white middle-class liberals go, destruction shall follow. Disturbing photos highlight drugs, homelessness issues in San Francisco's Soma. I don't know what that is. Adam Mesnick, owner of San Francisco's Deli Board, has been posting photos from around San Francisco's Soma neighborhood, many with pointed messages targeted at San Francisco Mayor Edley. This is from sfgate.com. I'll try to remember to link to it below if you want to follow along. No guarantees, though. In it, a man is seen apparently helping another man shoot heroin in broad daylight, right near the corner of Russ and Howard Streets. Now, we've been over the last few weeks talking about America's growing heroin problem. It's over in West Virginia and Ohio, one of the Carolinas, in that area. It's over here as well. You know, there's a lot of space between that side of the country and San Francisco. So it tells you that it's not localized. It's becoming national, and quickly. Mesnick is the owner of local sandwich shop Deli Board and its smaller counterpart, Rye Project. He runs the Twitter account for Deli Board and posts photos of the drug abuse and homeless problems outside his business alongside images of his sandwiches. It's not what you'd expect from a deli, but for Mesnick, the account has become a venting outlet. Not only has he been a business owner and resident of the area for the past 7 years, he has also taken on the role of being a photojournalist of sorts. He keeps a depressing record of what he feels is the downturn of his neighborhood. It's hard to thrive and cook and do something that you're completely passionate about and love when you're sort of watching a little bit of an urban decay, Mesnick said Sunday. Oh, it's more than a little bit, buddy. It's more than a little bit. While some would say the problems have always been around in Soma, Mesnick argues that the area has gotten worse. The Cleveland transplant said that he hasn't always felt unsafe in the neighborhood, but recent drug-laced and violent incidents, including people with bats and weapons at times, has him worried about Soma. A lot of photos that I post are hauntingly disturbing for me included, Mesnick said of his pictures of homeless people in his neighborhood. I mean, Sunday's photo ruined my day. Taking a photo like that and sharing it with the world ruined my day, period. You can read through my Twitter files and see the activity within striking distance of the eyes of so many people, he later adds. In regard to me sharing the photos, I'm really sort of awestruck when I take some of those photos and I'm completely shocked by what's going on around me. Mesnick spoke about various messages he's received on social media about his activism. While some feel that he is anti-homeless, he insists he's not. He continues to challenge... Okay, you see that, you see people shooting up, and you're like, you're anti-homeless. You see people shooting up heroin in broad fucking daylight, and you think you're anti-homeless. What does that say about the state of homeless people then? If you jump to that conclusion. He continues to challenge government officials such as Mayor Edley, who Mesnick mentions often in his posted photos of the area to help residents improve the area. The local issues for Mesnick aren't new ones, and he spoke at length about the neighborhood last year with the Chronicle's C.W. Nevius. But since that interview, Mesnick has moved forward with creating a neighborhood group, Better Soma. The group is still in its infancy and held its first meeting in early August, but already Mesnick feels that the group is easing some of the pain locals feel. Despite the warehousey appearance of the area, Mesnick and others call Soma home and are often challenged by the difficulties of living or owning a business in the neighborhood. Oh, I just don't understand why you would start a business in a place like San Francisco where it's so exorbitantly expensive to do business, to live. But we'll get into that a little bit later. The tone has changed, Mesnick said of his customers' feelings towards the neighborhood's problems. The tone is not empathetic nor sympathetic for my customers. The tone is simply, are you kidding me? It's not normal. It's really not normal. Better Soma is still finding its footing and its mission in the neighborhood and is joining up with the other groups to figure out how to make the neighborhood safer for residents, businesses, and its employees. The group meeting is on Tuesday with Western Soma Voice to discuss local issues. Better Soma is not about squawking. It's really truly about solutions, and it's about everybody as a community coming together to find a way to help, Mesnick said. Editor's note, a previous version of this story showed photos of apparent drug use. They have since been removed. You cowards don't even show photos of homeless guys shooting up heroin. This comes on the heel of something I read out of King County, Washington State. You know, where all the fucking Seattle retards are. And they're like, we just need to give heroin users a safe space. We need to give heroin users a safe space. You know, in the Philippines, they kill drug dealers. Again, they know what solves the problem. Why don't we solve the problem? You know, if the problem is getting people off of drugs, we don't do a very good job of that. We always beg the question. I mentioned this on Uncommon Filth Extra. Think about it. Think about any other addiction and how we dance around it, or how it would dance around it like we do with heroin and other drugs. Oh, this gambling addict? Well, we just need to give him his own private slot machine. That'll help. This is a depraved sex addict? Well, we just need to give him a prostitute. You know, at the ready. It's insanity. And then they'll say, look, we lowered the incarceration rates. We lowered the usage rates. No, you didn't. You're just hiding it. Because you close that door at their safe space and you're like, we don't know what they're doing in there. That's what they do. Guarantee it. I've said on the show that I don't like the death penalty too much. But let me put it to you this way. I wouldn't be opposed to making a death penalty a mandatory sentence for habitual drug offenders. And here's why. Let's take the issue of police violence. That's a pretty hot button issue right now in America. With Black Lives Matter and the race riots, what have you. It's very important to a lot of people. But what they don't understand is this. The societal metric, the equation is someone thinks it's a good idea to attack a police officer. Society needs police officers to deal with real problems. Who's worth more? Some idiot who thinks that attacking a police officer is a good idea, or a police officer? Easy decision. Someone who thinks it's a good idea to attack a police officer, somebody who has it within themselves to attack a police officer, is worth nothing. Now, let's use our imaginations here for a second. Let's imagine we live in a world where habitual drug offenders are punished with the death penalty. Either users or dealers. Users or dealers, they get the death penalty. Now, let's think about this. A heroin, cocaine, meth addict, they still use. People still use that shit, even though they have the knowledge that if they are caught using or dealing it, they die. They would rather use drugs than preserve their life. That's the decision they're making anyway. But by making a drug offense, habitual drug offenders, drug dealers, habitual drug users, by punishing them with the death penalty, even the threat of death penalty, that makes it official. So tell me, you want people in your society who use these drugs with the threat, knowing that there is the possibility that they will be killed because of it, officially? Those are your society's biggest pieces of shit. They already are the biggest pieces of shit, but that makes it official. Somebody who thinks that, but I need it. I need it more than I need my life, man. Done. Bye. Bye-bye. See you later. worthless, less than worthless. But the morally relative impulse of white societies prevent us from putting this system into place. Because the natural impulse we have is, well, as long as it's your choice, man, it's not for me to judge, just be careful. That's our impulse. That's what we say when faced with obvious dysfunction. Well, it's okay for you, but not for me. No, it's either it's fine or it's not. It's either it's right or it's wrong. There's no gray area. There's no, well, as long as it's your choice, man, there's none of that. Backtracking a little bit, the morally apathetic shithole that is San Francisco, which I'm pretty sure that just most white people would be fine with a San Francisco if it was just all white people. Like, they might be the depraved junkies, but they look like me and they don't commit any crime. They don't judge me or anything. Like, these white middle-class liberals, they vote in policies and politicians who make decisions that lead to this. Junkies using heroin right in the middle of everything. The Bay Area is a very expensive place to live. Not just San Francisco, but the, surrounding areas. And a lot of people live there. And a lot of people, they make it so shitty politically that they pack up and leave because they have the money to do so. Like, oh, I don't like it here anymore. I need to leave now. So they go to a place like Denver. Denver, I was talking about this recently. It's from denver.cbslocal.com. Title of the article: Homeless couple having sex in public, last straw, Denver residents moving out. It's also the homeless in these expensive places that are moving to Denver. But, they feed off of each other. The middle-class white liberals who don't give a shit about anything. And the homeless people who take advantage of that. They were like, wow, I can live in this place and nobody will judge me. Nobody will kick my ass out. Nobody will make me shape up. It's a nice relationship they have. They enable each other quite nicely. A young couple in Denver's West City Park neighborhood have put their home up for sale, saying problems with Denver's homeless population are driving them out of the city. It makes us extremely uncomfortable and we don't want to live here any longer, said the woman who asked not to be identified. Increasingly every day, it's the number one reason I want to sell, is because of the homeless situation. Their complaint is part of a growing chorus of Denver residents saying homeless issues have encroached into neighborhoods that previously saw minimal impact from Denver's homeless population. One Denver police officer who patrols Denver's Capitol Hill corridor told CBS 4 60 to 80% of his service calls are from residents dealing with homeless men and women causing problems. Many residents contacted by CBS 4 say the problems have grown exponentially within the last year. The couple selling their house said they were constantly dealing with needles, feces, and used condoms in their alley. Look, there is financially destitute and there's spiritually destitute. Most homeless people, they're both. All right? Look, I'm sure there are decent homeless people out there who have fallen on hard times and we should help them, sure. But decent people don't leave around used needles, feces, and condoms. Used condoms. They don't. It just doesn't happen. They say on occasion the homeless would walk into their backyard, take their patio cushions, and use them for sleeping. Again, you don't want to nobody wants to deal with the unpleasant feeling of taking a stand, saying, fuck you, get the fuck out, you piece of shit. Nobody likes the unpleasant feeling that is caused by calling somebody a piece of shit and telling them get the fuck out or dealing with them. Nobody wants to deal with the icky feelings that brings on. So this is what happens. They walk into backyards and take patio cushions. This is the future you chose. You fucks. You apathetic fucks. I just want to live in a nice suburb where nobody bothers me and I won't be judged and I'll vote in the exact same way as back home. Creating the same stupid problems over and over again, no matter where they go. You know what, in the Bible days, when Noah's sons spread out Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Japheth spread out over Europe. The Japheth is the Hebrew word for the where it comes from. The Hebrew word is expansion. And then that may inform you as to why whites are so colonial. Why even white liberals colonize areas, once probably decent areas to live in, and ruin them. I know it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around, but this is what they're doing. They need to be stopped. And who's going to stop them? You see, they're a problem, but nobody wants to deal with them because it'll be unpleasant. I have friends like that, you know, which is just the higher IQ version of not all X are like that. We have friends like that, and you don't tell them to repent. You don't tell them stop being a bunch of apathetic dong lovers that invite homelessness, that let the homeless run roughshod over you. No, everybody just shuts up because I have friends like that, or not all X are like that. Nobody wants to deal with a problem because dealing with problems is unpleasant. And the middle class dream is to be a piece of veal wrapped in cotton ball. Doing nothing. No discomfort, not even the psychological kind. That's the middle class dream. That's the white dream, and it needs to change. Now, nothing's gonna get done if this doesn't change. And you deal with it by just doing it. Saying, fuck my feelings, fuck whatever remorse I might feel, fuck whatever guilt I might feel as a result of this. It needs to be done. You know, it's not easy being right. It's not easy to do the right thing. I understand. But it's gonna be a hell of a lot harder in the long term if you keep fucking up. Denver, San Francisco, wherever the hell they're going to next. I have an idea of where it might be, but I'll refrain from naming specific locations. It says, but they say the last straw came on the night of September 12th, when they say two transients repeatedly had loud sex just outside their front door. Death penalty. Death. Death. Take them to the court. Okay, you guys got to be put down. It's done. Over. Done. She and her husband called Denver's 911 dispatch center 4 times requesting police assistance. The other 3 times, you're slut-shaming. You're sex-shaming. We should put you in jail. On one of the calls, the woman tells a 911 dispatcher, we're trying to sleep and homeless people are having sex on the porch next door. This is absurd. This is happening. After multiple calls, the dispatcher said police had higher priority calls to deal with. See, that's when you allow some leeway within the justice system for people to take matters into their own hands. You get out there with a little league metal bat, one that you could, never mind, I'm not going to get into detail there. You go out there and you say, hey, what you doing? And they scurry off, and if they don't, well, then you get to work. I feel unsafe with them right now. I feel endangered, the woman told the operator. Just west of Denver's Cheeseman Park, another resident told CBS 4 there didn't used to be a problem. She moved into her home more than 8 years ago, but says, I've never felt this uncomfortable. Great, another transient. You're a transient. You're a transplant. That's what you are, and you vote for the same shit that allows the homeless to run roughshod over you. The spiritually destitute. Because look, you give them some money, what are they going to do with it? Maybe they'll buy a meal, but you know, that food's cheap. You could go to the dollar store. You go to the dollar store and get food. They're doing something else with that money they get. And somebody you voted for is enabling this shit. And so it goes, same as it ever was, on and on and on it goes in perpetuity. You will go from place to place ruining it, voting for politicians who we need to protect the homeless. We need initiatives to help them. Which is to say, look the other way. Don't scare them off from, whatever. I feel uneasy, said the woman. It's your fault. Future you chose. She said earlier this summer a homeless squatter moved into a neighbor's backyard when the neighbor was out of town on business. See what I mean when we talk about fake problems versus real problems? See, this is a real problem, but people rationalize it to themselves that it's not actually a problem. They're just having hard times, like I said earlier. And some of them are, yeah, some of them are genuinely having hard times. Some of them are in a bad situation, but they're bad themselves more often than not, 9 times out of 10, I'd say. The homeless are generally pieces of shit. Okay, the lack of money isn't their problem. Alright, you could be homeless, but you can refrain from, fucking in public. I mean, it's really not that hard to refrain from doing that. Not that hard. Not hard in the least to refrain from doing nasty shit in public. She pointed out homeless encampments that have been regularly popping up on the fringes of Cheeseman Park. She said the transients leave trash and debris in the park. It's people who feel entitled to live where they want and inconvenience whoever they want. Oh, the irony. It's not a good thing. It makes us unsafe. It makes it unsafe for the rest of us. You know, Denver is a very popular location for these transplants moving from areas they ruined by voting in a certain way, taking certain jobs. I work for the government. I need a raise, and I can vote myself a raise. And that's all you see. Anybody who lives in like a home in California, especially in the Bay Area or one of these expensive areas in California, all of it is, but some more than others. That's all they are. They're government leeches. They work for the government doing some do-nothing job where all they do is annoy people. Like, did you fill out this form? And by asking people that and telling like, you need to do this form, even though I gave you the wrong one. And they get paid handsomely to do it. They get paid handsomely to be a DMV leech. And they get nice houses, and then they're like, oh, well, it's not good anymore. We need to move to Denver. And on it goes. Liberals are a cancer. White liberals are a cancer, a pox upon the earth. And you are seeing the symptoms of it right here. The complaints are not surprising to Jim Hannafin, who has run a temporary employment agency on Colfax Avenue for decades. Hannafin employs many homeless in construction, factory, and day labor jobs. He said of the homeless situation, I've never seen it this bad, and it's getting worse. Well, he would know better than anybody else. Hannafin said Denver's sky-high housing costs are partly to blame. That gentrification, though. Working people, low-wage people can't find a place to live. There's just no affordable housing for low-wage workers. He said part of the problem is motels along the Colfax corridor that used to cost $30 per night and were affordable, now command rates of $100 per night, pricing out low-wage earners. He said seeing more crazy... Well, here's why they're pricing them out. They don't want the riffraff. They don't want the $30 a night riffraff. It's that simple. Like, you know, these people drive away more customers than they bring in. Might as well jack up the rates. That's the reasoning. He said seeing more crazies and drunks and blames a lack of government spending on mental health services. Get fucked. Let's blame lower taxes. How about you blame yourself? You blame yourselves for raising these idiots. For bringing kids into your sterile suburban environment. You know how to work a job, but you don't know how to deal with people. You only know how to deal with people on a transactional basis. That's how you get these broken homes a lot of the time. Especially in the sterile confines of suburbia. Of a Whitopia like Denver. Where you're in a loveless relationship with your husband or your wife, you have stupid, shitty kids that you don't love, you don't know how to raise them, you depend on the schools to raise them, and there you have it. You don't teach them about life, there you have it. And you get crazies. And no amount of government spending is going to cure that. And why is it always spending with them? We just need to spend more money on it. Great, somebody has schizophrenia. You really think that was going to be prevented if you had more iPads in the classroom, you moron? But, it does bring up a point here. We don't fund mental health, he lamented. Hannafin said there's no shortage of jobs. There's plenty of work, we can't get enough people, he said, but those comparatively low-paying jobs don't pay enough to cover housing costs. So it's not the jobs then. A job never cured mental illness, you retard. But he does bring up a good point. We instead of social justice programs, instead of spending millions of dollars promoting shit like gay rights abroad in Africa and Europe, in Eastern Europe, which we'll get to. Instead of that worthless, soul-destroying shit like that, we could maintain mental health hospitals, a lot of which closed during Reagan's time. So, you know what? I'll agree with him there. We could use more mental hospitals, but we need to actually put people in there who need to be there. This guy's talking to himself, laughing to himself in the middle of a busy intersection. To the mental hospital you go. But no, they'll have to add their due process. Well, we need to make sure they're actually crazy. We need to be fair to them. That's what it'll lead to. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Kathy Alderman from the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless said she too has heard of the spreading homeless issue. She too partly blames rising housing costs as a factor forcing more men and women onto the streets. People don't have a place to go, she said. That gentrification, though. Same thing in San Francisco, which is why the only people that live there are fresh off the boat immigrants who are already making more money than they made back home, which is why they put up with the exorbitant costs of rent. Which is why they have businesses there, because they're like, well, shit, my margins might be low, but what I'm getting here is a lot more than I was getting back home. It's like all these fucking white-topias, liberal white-topias, they all leave. They pump it and dump it. Their stupid-ass policies create these retarded situations that are totally avoidable, and then they run from them. They don't bother repenting and fixing shit. No, they just find a new locale to ruin. But that comes from the personal dystopia side of things, doesn't it? They don't know how to live life. They don't know what the purpose of marriage is. They don't know what the purpose of having children is. They don't know how to raise kids. They don't know how to relate to their fellow man. They don't know how to deal with men. They don't know how to deal with women. They think it's all arbitrary, that we're all Mr. Potato Heads. And the wealth and prosperity available in America, which is becoming less and less available, masks their complete inability to function as humans, social creatures. They have no concept of input and output. What you put in to something, you get out of it. You put dysfunction in, you get dysfunction out. Hence places like San Francisco and soon Denver. Kathy Alderman from the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless said she too has heard of the spreading homeless issue. I think I read this already. She too partly blames the rising housing costs as a factor of forcing more men and women onto the streets. People don't have a place to go, she said. As of now, Alderman said there are an estimated 5,500 homeless in the Denver metro area, and about 3,300 of those are in the downtown area. She said she believes they are moving on into neighborhoods now as a direct result of the sweeps. She was referring to stepped-up police enforcement in downtown Denver and along the Cherry Creek bike path that has pushed the homeless into other areas. Dr. Massimo Azzolati, who also lives near 18th and Gilpin, recently wrote to Denver Mayor Michael Hancock complaining of the homeless using his alley as a lounge area. He said he has called the police several times, but to no avail. Well, that's when you take matters into your own hands, buddy. And then the homeless just have the nerve to bitch it to the police. You say, I called you fuckers so many times, you did nothing, so I'm going to do something. As a citizen, homeowner, and taxpayer, this has become a safety hazard. with these homeless individuals screaming and threatening if I tried to invite them to leave. Well, at that point, you get yourself a motor vehicle, and you hit the gas. If they don't move, well, too bad. This is certainly not the picture of the city that the administration wants to the visitors and tourists coming to Denver to see, wrote Azalotti. As a citizen and resident of this community, I feel like everybody is washing their hands on these problems, or of these problems. It says on, but I think he meant of. Julie Smith, Marketing and Communication Director for Denver's Human Services Agency, told CBS 4, I thought I was going to say Human Rights. I think we have to absolutely acknowledge that there is a growing concern about homelessness in our city. We all have a freedom in this country and we can move and be where we are as long as we are within the law, Smith said. Smith said Denver is working with other metro area counties to deal with the homelessness issue. First of all, get rid of retards. Your transplanted retards. Get rid of the people who ran from California and the circumstances they created there. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Get rid of... You want another Somewhere in America? Which, by the way, you should watch that video, everybody. It's a good video. I worked hard on it. And if you want to buy the prop, I'll sell it. I'll sell that binder that says, I'm not a soldier or a convict, but I sure am retarded tattoo. I'll send it to you if you want to buy it. I'll put it up on Bandcamp. First come, first serve. How much would somebody pay for that, by the way? I've never eaten on a microhome before, but I am now. I made energy bars. And they're really good. They got dates, they got dried cranberries, they got coconut oil, they got cashews. It's all very good. Well, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Somewhere in America. Somewhere in America, two crust punks are screwing on somebody's porch and claiming squatters' rights. Squatters' rights, bro. Squatters' rights, you fascist pig. This comes from a subreddit contributor. Your tax dollars at work, U.S. government spending to undermine Orthodox Christianity in Macedonia. So yeah, Red Ice TV, redice.tv is the website. America pays $300,000 to force liberalism and LGBT rights on Macedonia. Source is the AmericanConservative.com. A reader passes along a government document putting out bids for a contract. Here's the top of the document. It says, LGBTI Inclusion Project. The U.S. Agency for International Development in Macedonia is seeking applications from eligible prospective Macedonian organizations to fund a program entitled LGBTI Inclusion in Macedonia. Eligibility for this award is restricted to local organizations. See Section 3 of this RFA for eligibility requirements. Subject to the availability of funds, USAID expects to fund individual program an amount of $300,000 for a duration of 18 months. Again, the Obama administration, the U.S. government, right now, spending money to promote gay rights in Africa. And it's not just Africa now, is it? Again, it's only predominantly white nations exporting this depravity. That's just a fact. Apparently, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, a small Balkan nation that emerged from the breakup of Yugoslavia, is insufficiently progressive on LGBT issues. So the American government is spending $300,000 to undermine the traditional Orthodox Christian culture of the country. Excerpts from the document, emphasis mine. Macedonia has ratified the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the European Human Rights Convention. Through ratifications of these human rights treaties, Macedonia has assumed obligations and duties under international law to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights. To people who destroy and compromise humanity. It's just absurd. Fucking absurd. People who do nothing to contribute to humanity deserve our human rights. Everything's backward in white liberal land. Macedonia has made little progress towards meeting European Union criteria and strengthening the rule of law and respect for human rights according to international reports. In these terms, the country has still not met the necessary requirements for EU membership. The EU Progress Report notes that lesbian, gay, bisexual, and intersex persons continue to suffer discrimination and homophobic media content, both online and offline. Oh, what? You see a man and a woman getting married and having kids like you're supposed to? That's homophobia. That is to them. Anything that doesn't affirm their terrible life choices is homophobic. And we're more than happy to capitulate to these idiots. Yeah. Considerable efforts are still needed to raise awareness of and respect for diversity within society. So, Macedonia is a country that is 2/3 Orthodox and 1/3 Muslim. I could be wrong, but I would not be surprised if many people there hold beliefs about LGBTs that would trouble even conservative Christians in the West. But we can be certain that as far as USAID is concerned, any belief about homosexuality and transgenderism, short of what obtains in the offices of the Human Rights Campaign and the English faculty at Oberlin, must be stamped out. More. The LGBTI community is systematically discriminated against. In 2013, Macedonian Helsinki Committee report on hate crime incidents concludes that youth and members of the LGBTI community are the most effective members of society owing to the fact that sexual orientation and gender identity are not recognized grounds on which hate crimes can be perpetrated. Bias motivation crimes are not properly reported or investigated by police. Relevant practitioners do not receive training regarding the identification and response to hate incidents. See, it's worse if you do it to them. They hold an esteemed place in European society. This is proof that white society values the sodomite more than anything else. Because white people, all they care about is cum. All they care about is cum, and who's the best at cum? They know who it is. Where did I find this? When I was looking for videos of lesbians beating the shit out of each other for lesbo fights, I found this. The title of this YouTube video, posted 3 or 4 years ago, 388,000 views. The title of the video is "A Lesbian Kissed to Fight a Homophobic Protest in France." Boo-hoo, I'm so sad that you got attacked by terrorists. Let me tell you something, pro-sodomite is anti-Christian. Name me one part of the Bible that speaks positively about the sodomite. Name me one part of the Quran that says something positive about the sodomite. None. It says no nice words about them. Notice that Westerners always like to fag off with each other in protest. Notice that. Look at what happened with Milo Yiannopoulos and Gavin McInnes in response to the Pulse nightclub shooting. Gay people died. Gay La Raza died.
This is an attack on Western values. Let me taste the Negro sperm on your tongue, Milo. Give it to me. Give me all your diseases and toxoplasmosis so I could go give it to my wife. Oh wait, my horrible wife already gave it to me. This explains why I have the sudden urge to shove shit up my ass on my radio show.
You retards make me sick. If that's the future of Western civilization. Allah Akbar, motherfucker. Two others and me on the Discord stage a trap for the Most Holy Redeemer Catholic Church in San Francisco. We called them up and they were pro-gay marriage and they said they give communion to homosexuals, which you can't do as it is a major sin, etc. An excuse for breaking Catholic rules is, we support God's all-inclusive love. Also, they have an AIDS scroll memorializing all fags in San Francisco / Bay Area that died of AIDS. Also, they run a hospice specifically for LGBT people dying of STDs and primarily HIV/AIDS and blessing them. And they also denounce homophobia as it's against God's all-inclusive love. And again, show me where in the Bible that God expresses his love in the way that they express their love. So if we're defining love as something that's from God, okay, we have to look at how God expresses it, alright? Okay, and he doesn't express it in any fucking way that you get it, right? So we're gonna listen to this, because you have a YouTube link here. And set that out, that's the popping sound you just heard. I was, switching my, my speaker cable from one computer to the next. So, yeah, they denounce homophobia as it's against God's all-inclusive love, and right now we're reporting to this rogue church to the Bishop of San Francisco Bay Area, and hopefully we aren't reporting a homosexual to another homosexual, and this church is shut down. Here's the phone call recording. If you wish to hear it, credit goes to Zelix. We will listen to it right now. And this is on YouTube. Here it is. You're listening to it now.
Most Holy Redeemer, may I help you?
Hi, I was going through your guys' mission statement. We're coming over from Texas. We're moving out to San Francisco, and we were looking for a church. We were going through your guys' mission statement. It says that you guys were open to people of, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous, of the homosexual orientation.
Our tagline is God's inclusive love is proclaimed here. Everybody is welcome.
That is wonderful.
We're good.
I was wondering, though, I am in a married relation. I am in a same-sex marriage, and it is active. And I was wondering, are we still open to receiving the sacrament of communion?
You know what? That's totally entirely up to you. And I would say yes. So, it's
Oh, thank God. I'm sorry, I'm almost like tearing up here. Our last pastor was very vehemently opposed to it. We were.
Well, it should never, be between up to the pastor to decide. It should be the person who's receiving communion.
I am so.
That's totally up to you. So.
I am so happy to hear that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, what's your name?
Samuel Hyde.
Samuel. Well, it's nice to talk to you, and hopefully we get to meet you when you move out here.
Yeah. We might be out there in 1 or 2 months. Oh God, I'm shaking.
Very cool. Well, good. I'm glad. And make sure you look us up and meet Father Matt. He's terrific.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I tried to email Father Matt a couple days ago asking the same question. But I didn't get a response, so I thought I'd try calling the office.
You know what? A lot of times on the weekends, the office is closed on the weekends, and he doesn't check his email a lot. So, he's busy saying mass and all that kind of stuff. So he's kind of a one-man show right now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely, I'm sure he'll get back to you. So, but he's probably going to tell you the same thing I told you. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you. What was your name again?
My name is Will, and I'm the secretary here, and you can usually reach me here in the office during the week.
Okay, thank you so much, Will.
You're welcome. Okay.
All right,
okay.
have a nice
Take care,
day.
Okay. All
I will, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Before adding my thoughts, I will continue reading the comment here. Forgot to mention, MHR Catholic Church is right in the epicenter of the original gay neighborhood of San Francisco, and I guess they couldn't help but be overcome by the AIDS being in the epicenter of the world of the world LGBT movement. Enjoy your gay cancer, MHR Catholic Church, and most likely the Archdiocese of San Francisco, and most likely a good chunk of the remaining Catholic Church. Hey, I guess San Francisco does live up to its name of being the city of St. Francis, the saint of animals, and San Francisco is a city of animals housing whores like Lacey Green and the LGBT movement. But hey, at least you're the last human with a soul left in the city. All you need is 2 daughters and a wife, then it can be Sodom 2.0. Well, I don't live there, but, yeah. Somebody, righteous lives there. Somebody. We don't know who, but somebody. Bishop Salvatore Cordileone is a God-fearing man. Cordileone, whatever. You can trust him to be faithful to Christ, but the thing is, as a bishop, he has to pick his battles, because he's up against some powerful sodomites. These people even appealed to Bergoglio to remove the good bishop from office. For example, there was this instance of a parish in his territory that had a group of oratorians who were faithful to teaching the church's stance against homosexuality and openly taught it that marriage is only for a man and a woman and only allowing men to serve at services, as it had been the traditional practice since antiquity. Unsurprisingly, this started a shitstorm among the love is love parishioners who want their girls to do the things the boys can do, and made a giant stink against the bishop, Cordileone, whatever, I don't know, forcing him to evict the oratorians. Do you not get it? Do you not get why every serious religion prohibits these people from entering their ranks? That's all they do. They go from door to door looking for trouble. That's all they do. I don't give a fuck how red-pilled they are. I don't give a fuck if they're voting for Trump. I don't care how much of a contribution they make to your movement. All they cause is trouble. Here they are using the house of God to directly undermine God's law. Oh, you don't think they undermine secular society either? Are you that daft? Of course you are. That's why it's gotten to this point. Retarded white people who just turn a blind eye to every fucking problem that they don't have to immediately react to. Well, it'll be unpleasant to tell them to fuck off. I don't want to say that. So they rationalize it. They make friends with the deviant. They make friends with the troublemaker. And then they become troublemakers themselves. You know, for all of this talk about white identity and white people this, white people that, fucking white people have no idea how the hell they operate. You know, by saying this, they say, you're a divide and conquer shill. You're a divide and conquer shill. Fucking look at Europe, nigger. It's all divided and shit. We're individualistic people. We don't get along and good. We all do our own thing. We hope not to step on each other's toes. Let it be that way. Because all I hear again, here you go. Here it is. A problem. You have the church that teaches something very specific about the sodomite, and here they are allowing sodomites into their ranks, undermining God's law. That is a problem. So all you are doing by saying, like, this isn't a real problem is saying that, no, you think that it's actually a good thing, and you're going to undermine our efforts in solving the problem. That's all it means. So you stay over there, we'll stay over here, don't fuck with us. Yo, hold up, shitpost on poll. Hold up, calls Slavs pale Untermensch. Hold up, joins the KKK. So you masturbates to anime. You be saying, drops out of high school. So you be saying, watches Vikings on History Channel. Some finna watches Varg on YouTube. We was worships at an altar of the Fuhrer. We calls Mediterranean shitskins. Was converts to neo-paganism. Vikings and shit. And then the next one says, yo mama black. That's a Tommy Sotomayor reference. Hola, Common Filth Chen. I want to tell you a story about my journey into degeneracy and how I've come out of it. I lived in the Central Florida area. Okay, first of all, we need to stop calling it degeneracy. No white alive today is capable of achieving high accomplishments that civilization has come to expect. Okay, we like to look at nice old buildings in Europe and the nice architecture. Is anybody capable of replicating that now? No. Nobody's capable of replicating that. All right, that's just one example. So no, we're not going to use the word degenerate anymore because white people. Okay, we have higher IQs, but we just use it to rationalize shit, rationalize sin. That's it. Nobody's capable of achieving any degree of what civilization expects now. So no, we're not using the word degenerate anymore. I've lived in the Central Florida area all my life, which tends to be very mixed when it comes to morals. In this land of Disney magic, you can find good Christian people all around you, and just across the street, there are two homeless guys sucking each other off on a bench while shooting up heroin. My family background is pretty rough. My dad is a Cuban refugee, and my mom is from Tampa with a broken white family. Is there any other kind? They have been married for 36 years and both became Christian shortly after my oldest brother was born. I have three brothers. One is a drug addict felon, and we are raising his son for him. The second is the only one I look up to, a Christian cop who truly cares for his community. His shit's falling off my shelf. What is this? I don't even know what this is. That's why I don't go up there. Where did I leave off? That was really weird. Is an earthquake starting? You're gonna hear the big one? You're gonna hear me die on microphone? That'd be pretty cool. No, that wouldn't be cool. A Christian cop who truly cares for his community and works in the elementary schools trying to show good morals to children. And my other one is a part of the whole Dude crowd, and I never even see him. We were all... Wait, Sue Dude. Is that like Ndamukong Suh of the Miami Dolphins? And I never even see him. We were all raised the same way in a Christian environment. Our same church every Sunday and constantly participated in Christian events. You can totally look at my brothers and even see if you are raised well, you still make your own decisions and mistakes in life. I'm a 17-year-old in college currently majoring in journalism, soon to join the National Guard in a couple of years. I feel that after I complete my service, I've been called by God to minister to the Degenerate Society of Japan, only which 1% of the population claims Christianity. Well, stop majoring in journalism, first of all. Do something else. As for my story, around 2013, at the start of high school, I fell into watching basic porn at the age of 14 and I became addicted to masturbation. I'm not proud of this at all. As time went by, I ended up watching more and more deviant things. Eventually, via the wonderful place of 4chan, I fell into furry porn and trap porn and everything else and became a white nationalist racist even though I had grown up in a mostly black neighborhood. I ruined my mind and my mind was corrupted with these evil and deviant thoughts and I continued to ration out, Christ forgives. This isn't that bad. I'm not murdering anyone, which is the same logic that sodomite Christians use. I explained this. That murder is like one of the only sins that people don't turn into a false idol. Imagine that. I had plenty of friends and talked to a lot of girls, but inside I was spiritually dead. Even my parents could see it. In my actions and even in my grades. In the back of my mind, God was always telling me to stop, but I was not listening. Eventually, I began doing anal play with myself, and I almost damaged my intestinal tract several months back after I broke up with my bisexual girlfriend, who I consequently lost my virginity with, and began having anal play with groups of other girls with dildos. It's disgusting, it's damaging, it's against God. That hole is not meant for that at all. I actively went out looking for sex with a dick girl and even started flirting with guys. Well, you're really doing a lot to dispel that notion that sodomites are sick, unnatural, and promiscuous. Even started flirting with guys, which even in my sick mind, I still found men unattractive, so this was even far from me. Several months ago, I caved in. I finally felt, okay, and let me just say this. If this is all a ruse, this is a very elaborate one, a very elaborate fantasy that you put out in public, and, that also says something pretty sick about you. So, anyway you slice this, even this is a fake story, which, it may be, maybe not be, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But either way, I'm right. I'm right about the present state of young people. I finally felt like all of a sudden listening to my church sermon. My pastor had a message from Romans about how all sin is viewed equally in the eyes of God, but there are abominations that he is disgusted by, such as homosexuality and other deviants. Well, no, all sin is not viewed equally in the eyes of God. There is, Christ said he has the greater sin. Okay, how can there be a greater sin if all sin is equal? There you go, out of God's mouth, right there. I realized how far I was from him and how I needed to go back to his love. I was dragging other people into my ideas, into hell for the matter, telling them it was okay to do this fun stuff, it's harmless, quote unquote. And I was not being a good example to others of a true Christian. And you were able to find groups of girls willing to prod your butthole. It's good that you're turning yourself around here, but again, if this is all a ruse and you made this shit all up, you're a sick person. If this isn't made up, you're a sick person. So, but if this isn't made up, you're turning it around. That's good. It hurts me to this day, and I hurt my life on so many levels I could write a whole paper about it. I got home, cried, and opened my Bible, and it directly landed on a verse about forgiveness. I went to my pastor at my church and finally told him about all of it. He was not surprised. He says plenty of people he speaks to have similar issues, that we all sin and fall short of God's glory. Platitude, platitude, platitude. But if you try to live in God, you are made righteous. We prayed, and I finally asked God for true forgiveness for all that I did sincerely. Since then, I have stopped watching porn, forced degenerate thoughts to the back of my mind, and have been reading the scripture every day, finding what God wants me to do in my life. I have begun to minister to sodomites and degenerates all around me, convincing them that they are wrong and bringing them to my church and helping them on the path to become saved. It's really amazing to see their lifestyles completely change as God works in their hearts. I pray that I can continue to do his work when I go as a missionary to Japan, the land of homo, cartoon, child porn, and ladyboys. I don't think Japan has as many ladyboys as they do pederasts, so I can't erase my past, and the Ladyboy is more of a Southeast Asian thing. I can't erase my past, and I'm definitely not proud of it, but I found that you really can change yourself. To any people who are struggling with similar ideas or actions, God still loves you, and He wants you to come to Him and get out of your wicked ways. As for UCF, I've been listening to your show since a Christian friend recommended me to you around the same time I fell out of evil. You've helped me stay strong in my faith and continue to work in others' lives as well as improving mine, especially with the evidence you provide against homosexuals. You've inspired me to always try my best to minister to them. I hope I didn't write too much for you to read, but I hope this will impact others. May God bless and keep on doing His work, CF. Well, keep doing right. And give all the credit to God, not me. See, there is a purpose for people like you, people who are honest about what this lifestyle does to people. And this is a problem that whites have. We're just like, oh, are you okay with this? Well, that's fine. We don't have any standards. If somebody's repentant and honest about this deleterious lifestyle they lead, that's fine. That's a good thing. We want to listen to them because they have some insight that is not available to people like me, people like my listeners. It's not available. But they need to be repentant. They need to be honest about what it is and the kind of effect it has and the kind of mental illness that comes from it. That both creates it and comes from it. And unfortunately, most white people are just like, whatever. Most people in general are just like, whatever. As long as you're cool, as long as you contribute to the movement, as long as you're nice. Whatever the rationalization may be, it's all bullshit. We need to set that aside. We need to say, people, no, if you've done wrong, you need to repent. And you need to speak out against it. You need to speak out against it in the harshest terms. There can be no room for the unrepentant in society. None. No quarter. So, that was some story. Eternal health and good blessings upon you, CF. It is I, the regular Serb, the milk theorist, the fourth meme Serb. Yes, there's 4 of us. All aliases I went by for the past 50 episodes of your show. Yes, I wrote on each show consecutively except one. Prepare for yet another long comment. I come forth to bring good news. I passed the first year of my dentistry studies. Well, congratulations. Finally, after a long while of bashing my head over it. In fact, I've been so low on morale that hours before the exam, which I was supposed to take at 8 a.m., I dreamt of failing the exam 3 times. I took it as a sign of God. I prayed before going to the exam and went in head first, somehow managing to pass, thank God. Yeah, that's great. Now on to more important issues. I forgot to mention this many times. Happened to me 5 months ago. I was wandering somewhere with my thoughts when I spurged out and said aloud, med-resistant AIDS. My sister who was next to me heard it and laughed out loud saying, "No way, you watch Common Filth too?" She is 16. Why is this important? Well, because last week a middle schooler wrote to you. Yes, it was real. I sent him to you. I met him online through Steam Games. I learned that he's young only a while too. When I spoke to him about degenerates, what peer pressure can do to him, and other such things. He got interested, and I showed him your show, which he loved. This was 2 months ago. 2 weeks ago, I encouraged him to write to you. Now I feel bad because he refused to read his letter due to his age. Not your fault, but I come to say that what he wrote was sincere. Yeah, I mean, some people have been sending me some obviously fake stuff, so I was unsure, and it was pretty long what he wrote, so, and I thought I dealt with it fine. I thought I was nice enough to him. I thought I was gentle enough to him, but, get a hold of him and say that, if he wants to submit that again, I'll read it this time around. Well, I might even go back and read it myself. Now, you might think that it's weird for a university student to talk to or hang out with anyone that young, but here it's not that uncommon. There's no age-based cliques in Serbia. Older people are looked up to and you are considered cool if you hang out with them, or if you act as they do, God-fearing and patriotic. Often God-fearing and patriotic. Something I did in my early ages as well. It's a cycle of pure peer influence. You respect and listen to your parents, and when you're out with friends, you often listen to those older, wiser, and stronger than you, making for a healthy, patriarchal, and righteous society. At least it's so here in rural areas of the country. Well, I think that's pretty cool. Get young and old, younger and older. Not that you're all still young, you're just different kinds of young. I think that's cool. Gets you used to interacting with people from different generations, so, yeah. Back to my sister, all her friends thought I was cool for calling sodomites and for openly and without fear hating on them. That's about it for today. God helps. And then the reply, so it's true, CF makes videos for Serbian people. And that's a nice story. That is. And I hope the rest of Serbia, I hope the rest of Serbia follows your lead. If you're all good kids, you're all doing the right things for the right reasons, there'll be a future for you. But yeah, send the middle schooler my regard. And maybe a middle schooler is older in Serbia, because a middle schooler here is pretty young, so I'm looking at it through my burger lens. But thanks for the comment, and good job with the dentist stuff. Oh, you fucking what? I put in 10 plus hours into that Spurto meme, and you don't even read it. Well, fuck you, Spurtophobe. Get bent. That ain't banta. You want something to gander in the comments? Well, gander upon my fist, bashing you poof to face, and not so cheeky now, isn't it, bruv? You feeling knackered yet? Oh, shite, it's the coppers. Don't you think we're through it, you bellend? If I ever see you again, proper dead, swear on me, nana. Alright, well, look, that shit was really hard to read last week, which is why I didn't. Alright, I acknowledged it. You should be happy that I acknowledged it. Minor request, CF, will you post a head-on shot of your recording setup? I want to see what your eyes see when you lay down your words for us. I'll do it if I get 10,000 followers on Twitter. If you all follow me on Twitter right now, if I get to 10,000, I'll do it. So, that's something for you guys. Good day, Mr. CF. I heard you on Rebel Yell and have a question and a comment in regards to your appearance on that program. Firstly, the question, I've never listened to Rebel Yell before, but that show named itself an alt-right program. They seemed pretty responsive to your message. I know you accuse us whiteys of always viewing things through the lens of expediency, but perhaps spending so much time attacking them isn't helpful. I didn't care before, but that interview made them seem okay. Are they an exception that shouldn't be dwelt on, or are the degenerates in the movement the exception? No, the degenerates in that movement are the rule. I heard some guy a while, and again, let's stop using the word degenerate. Let's start using decadent and depraved and filthy. That describes them much more accurately, because there's nothing that they can degenerate from. They're already base creatures. I heard some guy a while ago on your show say the alt-right was mostly decent, but had a few pause holes among their rank. Well, here's the problem. The people who seem decent are far too happy to accommodate the pause holes. Alright, so, as you put it. They're far too happy to accommodate the unrepentant deviant. The comment was that I love the mention of having a bigger family unit with multi-generations. Me and my family are starting to set one up. I won't call my grandparents scum, but they certainly fulfill every stereotype of baby boomers, casually selling property other than leaving it as inheritance. My parents broke from them and raised us up properly. My siblings and I are now starting to move out and get jobs, but we're all going to buy houses as close as possible and start forming a family estate so that we'll always have something to give to our children at our passing. Having massive families seems a great way of saving our countries. All the lefties and degenerates will die out because they don't have kids. Well, that's not true. They'll just infect people who aren't good or bad. They get 30, 40, 50 of them at a time in classrooms. That's how they breed. That's how they spread their memes. We just need to hide out in the country and raise our kids properly, and eventually God will sort them out for us. Anyway, sorry for the long post. Keep doing what you do. God bless. Well, it's not just the big families, it's the conduct of the family. You could have a big family if you just go on Tinder and impregnate all these skanks that are on there. But I think people who are like, morality isn't real, they know that's wrong. So morality is real. They can't see it through to its natural conclusion, this very nihilistic worldview that there's only material gain to be had. Which is another problem with the alt-right. They think like, oh, the only thing that matters is material gain. Yes, and that kind of mentality gave us globalism through colonialism. Yeah, it's unbelievable the lack of fucking introspection these people have. But Ryan over at the Rebel Yell, he's helped me out a lot over the years, and I give back where I can give back, and I'm appreciative for that. He's a decent guy. But going back to the point of large families, yeah, you could pull off a demographic upset if you just acted like a complete, I won't say it, but look, there is a right and there is a wrong way to do things. And if you're going to do it wrong, then what's the point? It profits you nothing. And we're doing everything wrong, which is why 70% of babies in Texas are non-white. It's over. It's fucking over as it stands, as we know it. That's not defeatist. That's not nihilistic. That's a fact. That is a mathematical certainty. So yeah, having a big family helps, but it's not everything. It's not everything if you're just pieces of shit. But you know, your family doesn't seem to have that disadvantage, so good on you. What's this? I know who sent this. Common Filth. Oh, it's an ad. What do you picture when you picture the average American? Love has no labels. See if teaching is a good fit for you. Now, let's teach our kids about ass sex. It's love. It has no labels, everybody.
I'm a teacher. I teach kids important life skills.
Worthless. What else? Where did I leave off? LFCF, a comment that you read from last week's episode inspired me to write this. They asked, why explore the galaxy if you are just going to spread degeneracy and death? This reminded me of a joke told several years ago, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. Basically, I think that Roger the alien from that awful show American Dad is probably the most realistic interpretation of what an alien would be like. For anyone who is unfamiliar with the character, he is basically a hyper-intelligent, short, stubby, bisexual, transsexual extraterrestrial that is biologically immortal. He spends his whole life seeking pleasure by pretending to be other people, regardless of the consequences to himself, others, or his friends. He does drugs, drinks heavily, and frequently attempts to get laid. Basically, he is the personification of the millennial's ideal form and existence. Yeah, man, that is. Any alien we are likely to encounter will be like this due to the challenges that space travel impose. Even if I'll repeat that again without stumbling over myself, any alien we are likely to encounter will be like this due to the challenges that space travel impose. The distances between the stars are great, especially when we assume that nothing can move faster than light, assuming that an alien faces the same challenges we do. If they want to get anywhere interesting within a lifetime, they either need to find some method to move faster than light or a way to greatly extend their own lifespan. Looking at ourselves as an example, I think we are more likely to find ways to extend our own life. Furthermore, I think that by the time we achieve that, this will coincide with other massive leaps in technology. It could be that future societies will have totally automated production methods. Automation and VR are the end, everybody. Energy usages could reach new lows while at the same time achieving more efficient energy production methods. Plus, at a certain point, there will be very little else to discover, at least anything worthwhile. Eventually, your average citizen will not have to do anything. Yeah, the lack of work will destroy us all. I know that, jobs can't fix what's wrong with you, but complete lack of work, most people can't create it themselves. This is why they need an occupation. This is why they need somebody to tell them what to do. But yeah, complete lack of work will destroy us. Eventually, your average citizen will not have to do anything simply because the cost of a person working as a fry cook or as a researcher will be greater than just having some machine do it. Left with no meaningful way to apply themselves, people will just slide into doing whatever makes them feel good. They will all basically become Roger the alien. While this is all hypothetical, I think there is a real danger here. Just looking around me, I already see it happening to some extent. The neat culture is a great example of that. However, all that being said, I think there's very little danger of spreading degeneracy and death across the galaxy. That reason comes in the form of the Fermi paradox, which asks, if the universe is full of alien life, then why is it we have not seen any? Hedonistic blobs of flesh rarely want to leave the bedroom, let alone the planet. Then again, I could be completely wrong on that point, as I have learned to never underestimate the desire to spread the cult of POZ. P-O-Z as an HIV positive, everybody. That which leaves a culture weak and unable to defend itself. And it all starts within. It's like people are like, why is Islam taking over Europe? Well, look at Europeans. It's really not that hard to figure out. You can blame everybody else until the cows come home. But it all falls on you. It all falls on them. It's their fault. It's their fault. Well, that's a good post. It's a very, 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 very good post. automation's gonna kill us all. And maybe that's God's way of saying, I'm done with this. It's over. Bye-bye. Bye. You ever hear of gray goo? Yeah. Nobody wants to admit that they contribute to their own demise. They are emblems of their own demise. They think it's everybody else's fault. Just find a scapegoat. That way we could avoid the bad, icky feelings that come from introspection and taking inventory, moral inventory. That's what they don't want to do. And you know what? Whatever. We deserve to be taken over by whatever wants to take us over. Do you like Joy Division? I've never listened to a Joy Division song in my life, actually. That's the truth. I like New Order, though. Greetings and congrats for your excellent show last week, Mr. Filth. Your comments on socialism being terrible regardless of ethnicity are on point, but I wouldn't trust the white race as it stands with any sort of systemic economic power whatsoever. Remember all those corporations that changed their logos to rainbow colors when Obergefell was ruled? Well, that's just our culture, man. That's just white culture, dude. And it's wrong, and it's wrong to say that your culture is wrong. Self-hatred is wrong, bro. It's... Again, these are arguments that people actually make. It's self-hatred to criticize the things that your own people do. Now, isn't that very, very close to, love is love, no hate, fuck hate? That's another one. These people are so delusional that they think the only criticisms that can be made about white culture, the present state of white culture, are lies, falsehoods. They've heard, oh, you have white privilege and you benefit from slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, even to this day. All of this other nonsense, and when they realize that there are things that are actually wrong with white people that white liberal professors don't talk about, they don't know how to handle it. They can't handle the fact that it is white nations who protect sodomitic practices, sodomites. They're the ones who are spending money on promoting it abroad. And virtually nobody else does that. And let's not forget the multitude of psychological problems that whites face on a daily basis. There are just so many problems that aren't taught in schools and on TV and in movies. So they think that the only arguments that can be made against whites are strawmen, and it's not the case. And that's why people freak out when the subject of this show comes up. It's because I'm the only one who's saying it. I'm the only one making legitimate, truthful criticisms of the present state of white culture. So yeah, the white race as it stands, you can't trust them with any sort of systemic economic power. Like you said. Also, you mentioned Muslims recently, along with the decline of classical Greece and Rome, and how the warnings of Cato and Plato were ignored. I thought immediately of Belloc. He was somewhat overlooked writer, which is inevitable when you collaborate frequently with someone on the level of G.K. Chesterton. But his words on Islam and societal decline were quite prescient. Read this from his work, The Great Heresies, and keep in mind he was writing in 1936. I've said throughout these pages that the particular quality of Mohammedanism, regarded as a heresy, was its vitality. Alone of all the great heresies, Mohammedanism struck permanent roots, developing a life of its own, and became at last something like a new religion. So true is this that today very few men, even among those who are highly educated in history, recall the truth that Mohammedanism was essentially in its origins not a new religion, but a heresy. Like all heresies, Mohammedanism lived by the Catholic truths which it had retained. Its insistence on personal immortality, on the unity and infinite majesty of God, on his justice and mercy, its influence on the equality of human souls in the sight of their Creator, these are its strength. Whatever the cause may be, Mohammedanism has survived and vigorously survived. Missionary effort has had no appreciable effect upon it. It still converts pagan savages wholesale. It even attracts from time to time some European eccentric who joins its body. But the Mohammedan never becomes a Catholic. No fragment of Islam ever abandons its sacred book, its code of morals, its organized system of prayer, its simple doctrine. I say the suggestion that Islam may re-arise sounds fantastic, but this is only because men are always powerfully affected by the immediate past. One might say that they are blinded by it. Cultures spring from religions. Ultimately, the vital force which maintains any culture is its philosophy, its attitude towards the universe. The decay of a religion involves the decay of the culture corresponding to it. We see that most clearly in the breakdown of Christendom today. The bad work begun at the Reformation is bearing its final fruit in the dissolution of our ancestral doctrines. The very structure of our society is dissolving. In the place of the old Christian enthusiasms of Europe, there came for a time the enthusiasm for nationality, the religion of patriotism. But self-worship is not enough. And the forces which are making for the destruction of our culture, notably the Jewish communist propaganda from Moscow, have a likelier future before them than our old-fashioned patriotism. In Islam, there has been no such dissolution of ancestral doctrine, or at any rate nothing corresponding to the universal breakup of religion in Europe. The whole spiritual strength of Islam is still present in the masses of Syria and Anatolia, of the East Asian mountains, of Arabia, Egypt, and North Africa. The final fruit of this tenacity, the second period of Islamic power, may be delayed, but I doubt whether it can be permanently postponed. That is prophetic. He was later even more insistent to his contemporaries in his book on the Crusades, published the following year. There's still with us a complete chaos in religious doctrine, where religious doctrine is still held, and even in that part of the European population where the united doctrine and definition of Catholicism survives. It survives as something to which the individual is attached rather than the community. As nations, we worship ourselves. We worship the nation, or we worship, some few of us, a particular economic arrangement believed by us to be the satisfaction of social justice. Those who direct us and from whom the tone of our policy is taken have no major spiritual interest. Their major personal interest is private gain, and this mood is reflected in the outer forms of government by the establishment of plutocracy. Islam has not suffered this spiritual decline, and in the contrast between our religious chaos and the religious certitudes, still strong throughout the Mohammedan world, as lively in India as in Morocco, active throughout North Africa and Egypt, even inflamed through contrast, and the feeling of repression in Syria, more particularly in Palestine, lies our peril. So that's that. We had our Jared, that's the end of the quote there. So that's that. We had our Jeremiah Arcado, and we had him decades before the Arabs were even decolonized, let alone able to pose a threat to us. He even warned us specifically about Syria and Palestine. You were right, we never listen. We never listen. The Muslims are heretics, but faith moves mountains, and we are outright apostates. We are spiritually outgunned, and the results have been as devastating as the physical outgunning at Rorke's Drift. If the alt-right likes African frog gods so much, well, it's Whitey's turn to be the Zulus. Best hope on the coming Dimitude, CF. At least you'll not have to do this anymore when they throw all the natural aristocrats off skyscrapers. You know, when I was on the Rome is a Burning show, we were talking about this. We're losing out to people with zeal, with passion, with something to live and fight for. What do we have here in the West? I don't care how much Gavin McGinnis and Milo Yiannopoulos tongue each other's mouths. I don't care. That's not something they're going to die for. Okay, nobody dies for their right to have a publicity stunt. And that's what we have here in the white diaspora. We're just attention seekers. That's it. It's not like we're going to die for anything, because we don't believe in anything. We just like to throw hissy fits. As much as your average whitey loves his cummies and loves throwing a hissy fit, they won't take up arms to defend it. Because at some level, whether it's consciously or not, they know it's all meaningless. They know that what they value is absolutely meaningless. We're a bunch of hedonists. We're a bunch of amoral hedonists. And we live like amoral hedonists, which is why we don't defend anything. We don't fight for anything. The only thing we fight for is money. And we only do that with permission. There's nothing There's nothing brave about killing people when it's legal. There's nothing brave about going to war and shooting your gun when those are your orders from on high. Was that John Lennon song? Nothing to kill or die for, no religion too. That's another middle class dream, and we have it. And look, we're easily conquered because of that. Our idea of utopia, of paradise, is just a meaningless place where everybody just makes themselves feel good. Compare and contrast that to Islam. Young men who throw it all away to fight for a higher cause. Whether it's a heresy or whether it's not, it's something. It's closer to right than it is to wrong. It gets more right than we get it right. They are closer to achieving something eternal than we ever will be in our present manifestation. What do we care about? We care about the ephemeral and temporal. What do they care about? Something a hell of a lot closer to eternal than what we have, than what we, throw hissy fits over. Over however many episodes I've done of this, it's been a lot. I've read so many social media posts from average people sending me these long, stupid tirades about how it's wrong to be homophobic and how wow. They do that until they're blue in the fingers, until their fingers get calloused. Or people who understand it's a problem, but they make the stupid decision of making friends with sodomites. They're like, well, there are bigger problems, So, there you have it. It's either wow, stop being homophobic, or stop worrying about things that I don't care about, versus the glory of Allah. That's what we have. Guess who's gonna win? I mean, you don't have to make any predictions about it. It's obvious because of what we value and what they value. It's obvious who's going to win. When's the last time we won a war? The last time we won a war, we entered the war, in the late stages of it and claimed victory. Look, we're doing something. Oh, look, we did it. Yay. We don't win wars because of what we fight for. We fight for nothing. Previous wars, we fought for nothing. Now, we don't fight at all. And good riddance. Hey, CF, mind if I ask you a few questions? Well, this is what it's for. How did you discover the bug chasing / pause movement? This is something awful article, actually. They took screenshots from forums, and the author of that particular article went on a forum called the Bareback Exchange, and that's how I learned that an alarming number of homosexuals want to get diseases on purpose. And from there, I found out about the documentary The Gift in about 2009, 2010, which you can go, see clips of that on my channel, specifically in the We Stand With Orlando video. That's where that guy who's talking about, he wants to get the bug. That's from The Gift, the documentary called The Gift. And was it through the SJW Epicenter Tumblr, or because of the fact you live in libtard Fagland, California? No, none of that. I found out about it long before long before social justice was a thing, long before Tumblr was a thing. So, where did you find the videos you air under AFK? I go on YouTube and I look for it. Do you agree with the Second Amendment? Yes. And where and how did you establish your Christian values? Well, I read the Bible. I filter it through my own life. Like, I start viewing things through the lens of Scripture, and I realize that it's all true, and it's never steered me wrong. So that's how. So obedience has to come before belief. That's what people don't understand. They think that belief is the prerequisite, but once you start living by God's law, you start to understand the pieces start falling into place. It's obedience that God cares about. The belief will come after that, if you are truly obedient. So that's how. ACF, I think you should get out of California so that God can finally Sodom it. Nice. Recently, California lifted the statute of limitations for rape, which is a debatable change in the law and largely passed because an elderly blind black comedian escaped a rape trial due to said limitations. Well, yeah, I know who you're talking about. That's Bill Cosby. And here's the problem with that. Here's the problem with Bill Cosby's shit. He gave girls Quaaludes. They took them knowingly. That's what you did back in this depraved, freewheeling 70s. It was like, it's the party after the party. The after party. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the after party of the sexual revolution where everybody's exhausted. Nobody has the, nobody can set aside their pride and go home, realizing, shit, this party's over, we need to stop. No. The 70s, that's what they were. That was, you go, keep digging deeper that hole the sexual revolution created. So what do? They're so broken and damaged by the amount of wanton hedonism they engage in. And they have too much pride to admit that this is a wrong way to be, so they keep doing it. And every time it hurts them. Every time it takes a bit of their soul away from them. Every time they lay down with a stranger, so what do? They take the Quaaludes. So that they don't have to remember any of it. So that they could still do it and, avoid any consequences for the damage they're causing to their soul. Through sexual intercourse, through fornication, through illicit sex. And then in retrospect, oh, I could say that I was raped now? Wow. People are liars. They're nothing but liars. But if you combine this change with the affirmative consent law, which makes sexual interaction require a contract that isn't a marriage contract, you begin to see how this law will only make people's, especially men's lives, more miserable. Well, if you're a man whore, yeah, I guess it would make your life more miserable. But if you are a decent enough person who has earned the loyalty of a woman, well, you don't have to worry about that. If you are an honest person, you don't put yourself in stupid situations, you don't play stupid games, you won't win stupid prizes. It's like sane people don't shout rape. They don't accuse their loved ones, those they are loyal to, those who have earned their loyalty, they don't accuse them of rape. So be a person worthy of a woman's loyalty and you will avoid this problem. Quit fucking around and you will avoid this problem. On top of that, on top of all that noble virtue signaling, everything's a signal, isn't it? It's not just speaking your mind or disagreeing. We always have to add some faggy term for it. We have to invent some faggy term for it. Signaling. California legislators recently decriminalized child prostitution. Look, I'm not making fun of you. I'm making fun of the people that invent these stupid ass words. A friend of mine, he said that the internet right wing has as many pills and signals. No, I added that part, but they have as many pills as Tumblr has genders. It's really sad. There are words that exist for speaking your mind. There are words that exist for disagreement. We should use those instead of inventing our, for lack of a better term, special snowflake terms. Essentially, it is no longer a felony to be an underage hooker. This is done in large part to help crack down on the sex traffic problems by having underage hookers be less afraid to report the crimes to law enforcement. That's not going to work. There is nothing stopping them from doing that. The legal system, as shitty as it is pragmatic. If let's say, if a 16-year-old child prostitute goes to the police and say, look, I'm being held captive, this guy's very dangerous who's pimping me out, here's his information, I need protection though. And they could work something out there. It's like in murder trials, they don't go after the hitman, because the hitman's useful for the testimony, for the prosecution. Oh boy. But it will only lead to pimps employing more and more underage hookers, as they will not get in serious legal trouble when they are turning tricks. To sum up, California lifted the statute of limitations on rape, so now if you don't get affirmative consent from your fling, you could be prosecuted for it years down the road, except if the girl is underage and you paid her. Seriously, get out of that state. I mean, it's already bad. It would be bad without this law. I'm not saying that this law is making anything better. It is definitely making things worse. But, California's already been long gone. All the white liberals who work for the government, they vote in a certain way so they could get regular raises and nice pensions. And then they screw everything up along with that. Because it's not just, we need good pensions for our government employees. That's not the only thing the candidates they vote for. The state senators, those who are in the House, they pass other laws that make things far worse. Because their opinions aren't limited to, we need to give our hard working teachers raises. No, they have opinions about other things too, and they will put those opinions into law, which will make problems worse, which causes white liberals to transplant to go ruin other places by voting for the same shit over and over again. And they wonder, why is it that everywhere we go we have to move from? So, there we have it. Let me move this. Sorry about the site, but I swear this one had the most detail on bullying. So this guy was all over the BBC and Sky. Yeah, Sky News, right? Sky TV, whatever it's called. And I thought nothing of it at first besides, that's awesome, you ran 400 marathons and 10,000 miles. Then I find out it's anti-bullying, something which he teaches boys to never stand up for themselves, and it gets worse. The runner was gay during school. He's 29, so he's in high school at the turn of the century. He was bullied by homophobic individuals. See, this is what this is our cause. You could do, fighting homophobia is the most important thing. That's what Westerners believe. I'd be very surprised if bullies nowadays didn't act as watchdogs for any homophobic bullies. So he tried to kill himself. Is literally running away from the main issue that led to a suicide attempt going to catch up with him? Worse still is that he's going to encourage other kids to express their natural sexuality. No wonder this guy was getting this attention. There have been loads of people who've ran great distances like this who only got a few minutes of fame. News in the UK is getting really bad. Every third story or so has a political agenda which is mainly about women's rights and equality, but often about diversity or trannies or gays. Less and less news stories are becoming just stating of facts. Lastly, he literally ran 10,000 miles to make out with some dude at the end. Well, that's a Western value, according to Gavin McGuinness. That's a Western value that we need to preserve. I bet he gets UK Sports Personality of the Year, but he's got tough competition because Andy Murray came out as feminist in 2016. Look, the feminists are probably like, oh, so what? Everybody is. They're very thankless. But, yeah, there you have it. That's what Anglos value, that's what white people value. The only people that are open to the truth are those of Slavic blood. And even then, it's only a handful. It's only a handful. Look, it's all documentation. This is where we are in our culture. This is what we value. This is what we think is the best. Because we put our faith in man, and we know that, it's like this. White heterosexual people know that they are flawed in and of themselves. They can't make themselves into gods. Or some of them do. They're very delusional. So they look at something they can't possibly know, which is the homosexual. So they become an ally. They think like, oh wow, look at them. They have such great lives, and they live in this. They live in denial about it. It's all very surface with them. They don't see what lurks beneath the sodomite surface, which is a horrible thing of promiscuity, deviancy, domestic violence, despair, abomination. That's the life of a sodomite. But your average cishet who idolizes the sodomite doesn't want to hear about it. They don't. Hey, see, I tried that Gatorade recipe and it tasted too salty. That's probably because I put half a tablespoon of table salt instead of kosher salt. After 2 days, it tasted fine. Well, I'm glad you checked it out. Also, beef jerky is my favorite snack too. Sadly, they don't sell it in Serbia, so I have to make my own. Now for my question, do you think it's possible that Kek and meme magic is a way for God to try and reach 4chan autists? No. Fuck no. Good lord. You know, it's not that difficult to make your own beef jerky. Like the guy who made the homemade Gatorade recipe that I said I watched, he also has a beef jerky recipe. If you have an oven at home, you can make it. You can dry out strips of beef in your oven. How's that? Kind of cool. Hello, CF. While I'm working on fan art of you, I decided to dispense an interesting story to you. A few days ago, I was playing an MMORPG called Terra. Basically, create a character, make friends, and enjoy the game. Everything was going fine until I met another player called Zoe. She remarked that my character was cute, and then she just bombarded me with her real-life issues. To begin with, she was complaining about guys in-game and in real life hitting on her, even though she's a 17-year-old high school senior lesbian that lives in the southern states. White people. Hail the new dawn, brothers. There will be a future for our white lesbian babies who... never mind. Yeah, 17-year-old high school senior lesbian that lives in the southern states. That was the first red flag in my head. She initiated a discussion on the LGBT pause community, and I told her my staunch disgust of it, as well as the pause community and the domestic violence of lesbians. I'll give her one thing, unlike the fags you encounter, CF, Zoe is open to discussing opinions about the LGBT. Then she dropped the bomb that she was a trans male to female. Pre-hormone replacement therapy and pre-op. Oh, lordy. Zoe informed me of how his parents are, in his words, horribly transphobic. And that he had 12 relationships in his life and is just looking for a girlfriend in-game. Like, this is what happens when you watch too much porn. You want to become the girl. Here's proof of it. Well, I stated that people have their own preferences. He just labeled it as the imaginary disorder as transphobia. The man he whined about knew he was born male, maybe alt-righters, lol. And I informed him to stop and focus on getting an education, but I have a hunch he would enroll to some libtard frag promoting safe space university. In other words, all of them. You just have to say university. At last, I suggest you should try reading the Bible. And I even recommended your YouTube channel and Reddit page. He responded, I hope there's a shortened version of the Bible. I don't have time for it. I'm an atheist. Before Zoe logged off, he was overjoyed that he got an in-game lesbo girlfriend. I wondered if said lesbo is into mainly trabs, lol. Now, CF, I know you stated that some people are too far gone in sin and depravity, and I agree. Heck, even some of my messed up sinful family members have been cut off. But I at least want to try and show him the light of our Holy Father. This is stupid. Don't do it. You can't do that through the internet. You can't do that through MMORPGs. Nobody wants to face facts engaging in forms of escapism. It just doesn't happen. So, however, if Zoe stubbornly continues to delude himself into his mental disorder, then I'll wash my hands clean and he'll eat pause crow and die, or play IRL Frogger into a traffic like Leela Alcorn. Forgot about that one. I have to admit, this was the first time I met a tranny online. I haven't even met one in real life, even though I live in NYC, lol. Guess I'll label this memory as tranny I met in Terra. Or on Terra. Common Filth, I'm scared. My sister, whom I'm quite close to, seems to be trying to infiltrate the vile world of politics. She has on occasion told me that communism is great and that people just don't do it right. And people don't do anything right. Has anybody ever considered that man cannot be perfected through his own means? Of course not. She's a girl and she's young. She's not going to figure it out. Hell, even male adults haven't figured this out. And they never will, unfortunately. Man is an ascendant beast. Man is an ascendant beast. Yeah, I guess it is. I guess you have nowhere to go but up if you're if you're into anime porn. Ah, jeez. I just think about all the personality types I've encountered over, my time doing this, and it's just, how do you fix it? There's so many types of dysfunction. At the time of writing this, she asked me this: is left conservative or liberal? I answered accordingly, not thinking much of it at the time. Then she asks me, if you're communist, which are you? I first answered, well, if you're communist, you're stupid. She didn't appreciate that. Well, that's actually a really good response. She said that people who believe in communism are usually really smart. Yes, because that's all high IQ gets you. Again, rationalization points. You're really good at forming echo chambers, too. You're really good at ignoring historical fact. To which I rebuked her. There's a difference between intelligence and being smart. Yeah, it seems that the lower IQ people, they have a very simple, concise, accurate view of the world. I saw some rappers saying that cartoons are trying to turn kids gay, and they are. There are cartoons out there that kids watch that feature gay married parents, and the kids go along with it, and everybody's happy. Everybody's happy, because that's a cool way to be, and he's right. He's right. The only thing he could change up there, the only bit of sophisticated reasoning he could use is that this is a reflection of marketplace demand. People who watch cartoons, they want queers in their cartoons. So they're already queer, the cartoons are just affirming it. So that's the only thing I would change about it, but he sees it. This 85 IQ rapper, hip-hop guy, I forget his name, but he said it, and he's right. He's right, it's a terrible thing to promote. I answered her first question for real then. I said that communism has more to do with economic views rather than social. But more often than not, a communist will be liberal. I thought this was quite strange at this point in the conversation. Then she tried to tell me why it was so great and said Marx's vision was not being accomplished. What the hell is this? I heard her out, and then I just told her the basis of communism is you don't want to work and everyone shares, take turns, and hold hands. Communism is evil. It places your faith in man. And as we all know by now, we do not place our faith in man, and man will always let you down. She shut her trap. CF, I'm still afraid. There are many of you listening whose families have been broken by sodomy/whatever. I'm afraid of my sister, whom I love greatly, will fall away. My friend, what do you suppose I do? There's nothing you can do. You did what you could do right there. And if she still thinks it's a good idea because her friends are communists or she wants to impress the teacher she has a crush on or whatever it is, there's nothing you can do. Don't blame yourself. Don't feel bad about it. This is the problem with self-determination, but if that's what she's self-determined to do, well, you tried. Don't feel guilty about it. I don't know how to say that, CF. I know you're not the most versed in the Japanese Okay. Why are you talking to me about this shit? Whatever, you took the time to write it, I'll take the time to read it. I know you're not the most versed in the Japanese cartoon, so I'll keep this brief. A friend and I were watching the finale of a recent anime called Mob Psycho 100, and long story short, Ronald Reagan delivered a speech to a homosexual death cult, chiding them for wanting to take over the world, when they were essentially a bunch of shut-ins who had never even truly lived in the world to begin with. As if they lived in bubble wrap. Fuck all that. My friend was the one who drew the parallel between CF Radio and the show, but he got me thinking that perhaps you're riding for the Japs on the down low in between seasons of world peace. I don't know, but if the salmon smells... Anyway, my actual question is whether, and to what extent, you think we should employ logical arguments like an ontological argument as justification for our belief in the one true. I've approached the issue from two perspectives myself. First, I understand that piety is meaningless without faith, but sometimes I get the feeling that faith alone is a weak religiosity if we have other resources available, especially when you take into account the various inane things people have blind faith in. I suspect you'll say that living the word and seeing how people who stray from it suffer is justification enough, and that's worked for me. But is it possible that a clear argument for the veracity of God and the Gospels could enhance your faith or make it easier to convert other people? Well, you could boil it down to its bare essentials. You say, like, okay, here are the 12 apostles. You think they're liars? You think they went out into the world and suffered very, very cruel death from whoever, from people who are very hostile to the message of the gospel? You think they're going to go and do this all for an imaginary friend? You think they're going to do this for some shit they made up in their brain about a guy walking on water and making the blind see? Hell no. You're not going to put your life on the line for something that doesn't exist. Peter and Paul were both martyred in Rome about 66 AD during the persecution under Emperor Nero. Paul was beheaded, Peter was crucified, upside down at his request, since he did not feel he was worthy to die in the same manner as his Lord. Andrew went to the land of the man-eaters in what is now the Soviet Union. Christians there claim him as the first to bring the gospel to their land. He also preached in Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey, and in Greece, where he is said to have been crucified. Doubting Thomas was probably the most active in the area east of Syria. Tradition has him reaching as far east as India, where the ancient Marthoma Christians revere him as their founder. They claim that he died there when pierced through with the spears of 4 soldiers. Philip possibly had a powerful ministry in Carthage, in North Africa, and then in Asia Minor, where he converted the wife of a Roman proconsul. In retaliation, the proconsul had Philip arrested and cruelly put to death. Matthew, the tax collector and writer of a gospel, ministered in Persia and Ethiopia. Some of the oldest reports say he was not martyred, while others say he was stabbed to death in Ethiopia. Bartholomew had widespread missionary travels attributed to him by tradition, to India with Thomas, back to Armenia, and also to Ethiopia and southern Arabia. There are various accounts of how he met his death as a martyr for the gospel. James, the son of Alphaeus, is one of at least 3 James referred to in the New Testament. There is some confusion as to which is which, but this James is reckoned to have ministered in Syria. The Jewish historian Josephus reported that he was stoned and then clubbed to death. Simon the Zealot, so the story goes, ministered in Persia and was killed after refusing to sacrifice to the sun god. Matthias was the apostle chosen to replace Judas. Tradition sends him to Syria with Andrew and to death by burning. John is the only one of the company generally thought to have died a natural death from old age. He was the leader of the church in the Ephesus area and is said to have taken care of Mary, the mother of Jesus, in his home. During Domitian's persecution in the middle 90s, he was exiled to the island of Patmos. There he is credited with writing the last book of the New Testament, the Revelation. Early Latin tradition has him escaping unhurt after being cast into boiling oil at Rome. Continuing with your comment here. The second perspective I had was that there may be a danger in relying too heavily on the argument itself as a justification for the faith, since even logical arguments can have hidden fallacies. And the collapse of an argument with a lot of stock could put into it could jeopardize the faith of the believer. Eager to hear your thoughts, and good job knocking it out of the park this week. Both the podcast and Somewhere in America were choice, the former being one of your best shows to date, in my opinion. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Look, you're overthinking this. You know, it's all there. You know, in Deuteronomy 28, I did a show extra about it. I did an extra episode of Extra about it. It's a checklist. God says, if you disobey me, here's what's going to happen to you. And it's all happening right now. And it's happened throughout history. Because it happens to disobedient people. And that's just another argument, in addition to the deaths of the apostles. So you're thinking about it too much. All right, the product speaks for itself. And what the apostles did, they did as Jesus instructed them to do. Example upon example upon example. Look, you're not going to, use some verbal sleight of hand to get somebody to agree with you, all right? That's for people who are professional debaters who, they're not right. If they, a debate, whoever wins a debate, they're not necessarily right. They're just better with wordplay. All right, so, if people aren't receptive to what God's law says, what he does if you violate God's law, what the Bible says, what people in the Bible did after, the days were done, the days of talking and walking with Christ were done. It's up to them to come to the light, and no amount of sophisticated argumentation. I mean, maybe it'll get you somewhere in some cases, but more often than not, just let it be simple. If you read any of the books I recommended you in the last episode, I want to know what you think of it, as you seemed to like what I had said. Look, it's only been a week. I have other things I do. Keep up the good work. You seem like the only person who has a good understanding of the truth. Well, I appreciate that, but you had to be patient with me here. All right, this is a pretty big undertaking that I do every week. And I'm getting more efficient at it. I've cut the time that I spend doing this by like half, and it's good. So yeah, I have other books that I'm reading right now. Hey, CF, quick question. I think you'll put the original white text on black background CF as a standalone 4x4 sticker. It would look great on my computer case. Well, I've spent the money on the stickers that I have now here, which everybody likes, by the way. And again, if you want a sticker, either the Ignore Sodomite Orders one or the White Girls Fuck Dog stickers, get it, and you will get Common Filth Extra episode 37 for free. Awesome deal. But that's an idea. I don't know how many people would buy that, to be honest with you, beyond you. Most believable conspiracy theories. Well, all of them have grains of truth, I think. So there's not just one I can point to and say, look, that one's real. It's all correct. And I think there are little grains of truth in all of it. Opinions on clown sightings. It's just a reflection of the curse that God has put on whites. We're insane people. And the clown thing, the clown attacks, kidnappings, attempted kidnappings, just a reflection of that. And something inspirational, all the first Christians who were the original anti-Semites were Jews, most of them full-blooded Jews. There's a reason the rabbis explicitly state in the Talmud that any Jew who so much as read the New Testament will be denied any reward in the new world that is to come. It was censorship, and like all censorship, it was born out of fear. The rabbis were losing Jews in droves to Christendom, and they had to stop it somehow. If they hadn't, Judaism and Jewish culture would have ended right there, and we wouldn't have many of the problems we do today. What are you talking about? You know, most Jews that you can point to that you could say are causing problems, they're not religious. Their money is their god, but, you know, there's no church of money, right? Money is their god. Catholicism teaches the negative consequences of living sinfully. Orthodoxy teaches the positive benefits of living virtuously. Read and learn both and take them to heart, make their understanding of the immaterial a part of yourself. National Socialism is not an end goal, but a transitory stage. Hence the phrase, to secure a future for our children. The children will be the ones to build the age that is to come. Our job is to secure a future for them, to give them the tools and resources they need to do so. To throw away the rotten and burn away the chaff, to give them the chance that our fathers never gave us. Well, I mean, it'll be hard, but it's like, how can you... Hold on. How can you build something new if you have no example? Alright, and to talk about National Socialism, look, I'm not some kosher carny libertarian cosplaying as a Nazi to piss off my liberal coworkers, alright? That's not me, you can find that somewhere else. Your blood matters, but not as much as you might fear. Less than 2% of all Africans are worth keeping, but of them, the traits they could share to be the seed to make their race as great and glorious as all of the we was kings rhetoric claims. Given time, what holds them back is not so much their blood, as we too were all there at one point, but the lack of a will to push forward and better themselves. If they don't want to improve, they never will, and if that is the case, they will be cavemen forever. Do you have that will? It sounds like you do. You are awake, you are here, and you know the face of the enemy. That makes you part of this fight. You are a real man now, awake and alive in a way. I don't know what you're getting at here. That many others are not and will never be. You have the eye to see what is wrong, and the unique will to not only affect change in the world, but within yourself as well. You are one of nature's nobility. Well, that's a nice thing. I would rather have 10 Kubricks and Bernsteins at my side than 100 full-blooded Nordic anti-fascist cucks. Never forget, the original anti-Semitism came from inside Jewish culture as a total rejection of Jewish culture, Jewish thought, and Jewish and moral and ethical values. Anti-Semitism itself is Semitic, in a way. Don't run from it, it's not a paradox, it's the truth, and like all truths, it has a stranger face than fiction. But that face, it's yours, that's your face. Embrace it, be the man you were born to be, not the man they wanted you to become. Well, that's actually very nice, and I appreciate that, and that's why a lot of people have a problem with me. They don't want to, these young white kids who just heard that it's everybody else's fault but their own from the internet. That's all they want to hear as their kind vanishes off the face of the earth. They just want to hear how awesome they are. They don't actually want to hear what's wrong with them. Again, they want a palliative. They want to be comfortable until they die. And that's it. Hey there, I think the way you present weirdos in your show works really well. Wait, did I skip anything? No, I didn't. Okay. I think the way you present weirdos in your show works really well. Just by putting them in a natural light or the proper context, it should be obvious to anyone how damaged they are. It helped reach out to me, and I think it will continue to attract people. My question is, do you think this kind of method would work well in person? I have the opportunity to do some speeches in a class, and my teacher's humble enough to let a student say what he wants. It's a community college with seemingly decent people. I respect my peers as human beings who could recognize a self-destructive behavior if they see one. I think you're being a little too idealistic when it comes to your fellow classmates. Some are churchgoers, others Bible believers, at least. It's very difficult for me to look into the eyes of someone and accept that they might enable a lifestyle leading to death or killing unborn children. In our Bible study at the college, there's a lot of young people looking for guidance in their lives, turning to God. The room used for meetings is not nearly large enough for all the people that need it, but I never see anyone pushing depravity in public. I really think anyone with a soul would understand the messages you say when we all just ignore sodomite orders. Well, people, they hear things differently. Some people, they come to the right conclusions. They learn the truth through positive examples. That was never me. A positive example of how to be. That was never me. That never filled the right parts in my brain. It never lit up those parts of my brain that needed to be lit up. It was always negativity. It was always anger. It was always rage that got me to see the truth. And that's the content that I make. It's not positive at all. It's very abrasive a lot of the time. That's how I best receive information, and I talk how I want to listen. But it's not for everybody. And you have to measure, you have to use your best judgment what kind of person they are. Do they come to truthful conclusions through positive means or negative means? And that's something you have to decide for yourself. That's something that only you can know, because I can't determine that for you. So that's my answer. Hey, CF, I've got a whopper of a story, and I really don't think there's much I can do, but I need any advice I can get. So my mom's friend went into a rehab a couple months ago for heroin. It's unlikely she'll ever recover. Where is it? She already relapsed once. But my mom decided to take her daughter into our custody so she wouldn't have to go to foster care. That's really bad. Since her dad was already in jail, her dad is the worst kind of scumbag in the world. He does every kind of drug you can think of. He gives his kids drugs, his 9-year-old son has done drugs. He's been known to choke out his children, threaten them with actual weapons, and he thinks of himself as a god. Now the daughter, I know she's had a bad past, and I've been trying to treat her like a sister. I've made it my promise to help her recover from her awful, awful past where she could just sneak out to boys' houses, do drugs, get drunk. She's 14 and this was her life. She's only been sober since December, and she's admitted to doing pot recently. We've been working and getting this out of her. She doesn't sneak out anymore. We monitor her activities, and we're probably going to buy drug tests to monitor that front. She's not stupid, she's not a bad person, she knows what a horrible past she has, and she seems to want to be better. But her dad plans on fighting for custody of all of his children. I'm 17, there's nothing I can do about this situation, and I'm not sure my mother will go all the way and adopt her to take full custody. And even then, if we do, nobody will be there to watch the 2 younger kids. I want to do anything I can to help this situation, but she's still somewhat loyal to her parents, though due to her awful raising, she considers them more friends and wants to hang out with them, even though she knows that they were horrible parents. I really don't know if there's anything I can do, but I refuse to give up on her. I've taught her all I can to not follow the path of her ancestors. Well, they're not really, they're her parents. I mean, when it's an ancestor, it's whatever. I've given her the wisdom, and she seems to be receptive to it. Both of her parents are very atheistic, so she's stubborn to God, but she'll occasionally come to church with me. I'm doing all I can, but I just don't know what to do. I'm praying on it, and I hope you can too. And anything you have as far as wisdom or guidance would mean the world to me. I'm sorry I'm not a great writer, so it's a little sloppy and unorganized, but I just want to do everything I can, but I don't know what more I can do. Well, you're doing right. You're doing everything that you can within your means. Like you said, you're young. All right? It's not like you can take control of the legal system and influence it in a way that you think is just. So, again, you can't blame yourself for the situation that you find yourself in. You can't. You're doing all you can. You're not encouraging her to sneak out and do drugs. In fact, you're encouraging her to do the opposite by inviting her to church with you. That's a good thing. Again, you can give somebody the truth, but at the end of the day, they have to take it. If you've done all you can, and that's all you can do is tell the truth, say you're screwing up, stop screwing up, they have to listen. They have to put that into action. All right, you can't do it for them. They're not you. You are not in control of them. It's their choice to be a fuck up and not yours. Always keep that in mind. You're doing all you can do right now. You're doing all you can do at any other point in your life. If we're being honest here. And that has to be good enough. Sure, you can feel sad that they didn't choose right for themselves. You can feel bad that they didn't walk the path that you pointed them to. But that's it. Don't lose any sleep over it if it turns out poorly for them. Anyway, this is Common Filth Radio, episode 109. Again, Common Filth Extra, episode 37, available now on commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com. It's also, if you don't want to buy that and you want to buy a sticker, you actually get it for free this week. Again, ignore sodomite orders, buy a sticker, you get Common Filth Extra, episode 37 for free all this week. So take advantage of that. And if you're planning on making a purchase through Amazon.com soon, please use the referral link below. Click on that, it'll take you to the front page, search for your product, add it to your cart, check out within 24 hours of clicking on that, and I get a percentage of whatever you buy at no extra cost to you. Everybody wins, it's a good thing. So until next time, my friends, you take care of yourselves, be good to each other, and I will talk to you later.